Where did you get these orange things? Like, is this a professional
Rode website?
Should I know what Rode is?
No,
It's just
not
like
really.
a
microphone.
Microphone company. Perfect. Okay. Hey everybody, welcome to the third episode of the Untitled podcast. Today we're joined by the fabulous, the great Nadja Stamselberg.
Well, thank you.
So Nadja is an artist and educator that is currently teaching at Regent University London. And a bit of her background, so she has a BA at Central St Martin's for Fine Arts, then a Master at City University London in Arts Criticism, a PhD from Goldsmiths in Cultural Studies, and then another Master from Royal College of Art in Painting.
Exactly. So the first question that we have for you is how it felt growing up in London in the artistic world. Can you tell us more about it and just the general vibes?
Okay, so I guess this was some time ago, and it was rather different being an art student than it's being an art student now. And I definitely noticed that when I went back to the art school to do my master's in Royal College, and kind of doing it in my 40s as opposed to being at Central St Martin's in my 20s, I could really see the big difference. So Central St Martin's was fun, but it was time of the YBAs, Young British Artists, so everyone was so excited, but painting wasn't sort of like high on the agenda. I think, the whole sort of period of Young British Artists was mostly, it was all about Hirst and Tracy Emin and Sarah Lucas and some kind of really daring installations, lots of confessional art. So doing painting wasn't that great at the time, and I felt I was constantly killing the semantics. And I think I was, spend my 20s thinking far too much what other people think than what I think. And so it was fun, but, kind of in hindsight, with the benefit of hindsight, perhaps I didn't get as much of it as I would have now. And I think I definitely had, I felt that I gave it much more of myself, and it was much more meaningful actually doing it later on at Royal College of Arts. So, but it was great.
You don't regret anything, of course.
No, not at all. It was, again, I work in academia now. I know how we treat students, how much support we give them, how important it is to kind of make that bridge between academia and real life and kind of tell them. And this certainly wasn't the case in an art school back when I did it. So I think I had no concept of a career. I knew that I wanted to be a painter, and this is where it started and where it ended. So how I was going to become one, this was that was a different issue. So I think we did have a lot of people. We had Tracy Emin waltzing in and out, talking about her unmade bed. It was very exciting. Lots of our tutors were involved with the movement. They were always very busy, but then I think it wasn't so much student focused as it is now. I think education in general was much more kind of students are just there and hopefully they're going to get inspired and sort of tag along. But it was fun.
So you had the chance to meet the YBAs back then?
Yeah, I think yes, not I think so. I do know so. We did, and but they were. What would I say? They were exciting, but not very generous with students. I never felt that you could, approach them. Or maybe again, me in my, early 20s, I was not really up for approaching Tracy Emin, as probably I would go now and say, excuse me, hi, let me tell you how much I like your work, or shall I ask you some questions? I think it's a very different time. And I think, being young, and
everything feels more intimidating when you're younger.
It does.
I mean, I would be scared now to go up to an artist and say hello.
Well, especially if you're not encouraged by your tutors. And,
especially.
I think if you would have people who would encourage you and say, make sure, because I think there's so much being put on networking now, and it's so important. And we always say to the students, make sure you meet people, you introduce yourself, you network with people. So this definitely wasn't the case before, all of these people, they were like some sort of untouchables, you kind of would listen to them and maybe take notes, but you wouldn't really go and talk to them. So
Yeah, like I think like teachers and tutors in general play a very important role in the shaping of what a student can become in any realm, not just like artistic wise. So it's really cool to see how you went from being an art student to being like one of those teachers that really shapes the future of the students and helps them with the networking, because we had you last semester for the professional perspectives class. And we had a lot of guest speakers that really, they're on my LinkedIn now.
Yeah, exactly.
great. But I think it's important to, always sort of say to students, like, don't be afraid, just go. These are just people. And you should just go and, talk to them, introduce yourselves. And especially within the arts world, it's such a small world. It's kind of really exclusive, and there's lots of egos, lots of characters, lots of people think. A lot of that kind of facade of not being approachable, not necessarily being inclusive. So I think, art students, they just get caught in that. And I think that this is, definitely different now. Art schools are teaching art very differently than they did when I went to an art school. So I'm sure of it.
So your second master, you did it after how many years from your first?
I think about 20.
And how did you approach that?
Being
in a classroom with also like people that are 20?
Yes, some of them. So average age of a master's at Royal College is about late 20s, early 30s, because they tend to, either come after having some time. So rarely, you did have some people that were maybe 23, they came straight from BA, but on average, people would have some sort of a career or something. So it was lovely. It was really nice to actually have, because I'm surrounded with young people all the time, but they're my students, to actually have, young people as my peers. That was really nice. And I had, to learn a lot from, how young people operate on sort of day-to-day basis. So that was really nice. It was also, it had its own challenges in terms of, kind of time management, and because I was still working here fractionally, and I also have a family, so kind of juggling all of these things that, my peers didn't have to juggle. That was something that was a bit more difficult. But yeah, especially private views, everyone would go to private views all the time. And for me, private view is dead hour. It's school pickups. It's like, okay, maybe I can make, if it is something special, then I can, kind of liaise with my husband. But normally it's, and again, I found that a lot of, within the arts world, it was all about networking, and it's lots about being seen, going to different openings. And I felt, well, that's one thing I didn't make most of it, because, I just couldn't really. But I did, in terms of, kind of getting feedback, how I approached my work, that was very different. So I now take the feedback that suits me and kind of don't agonize over the one that,
Claim what resonates. Leave what doesn't.
I think so. You need to know what to keep, what to discard. And especially if you are an artist, you'll have so many different opinions. And so many things thrown at you. And sometimes I think when you're young, it's very, very difficult to know what to do. And naturally, I'm a very gullible person. I believe everything everyone tells me. I did it so bad when I was in my 20s. Now I'm like, okay, maybe, but I just kind of never thought that anyone would have an agenda and they would say to me something. So I would just, I really felt that I took too many things on board. And took too many things seriously when I shouldn't have. I wish someone would have kind of sat me down and said, well, there's feedback and feedback.
I think that's really good advice for artists at any age.
Yeah, definitely.
It is kind of believing in yourself. And I think it's important to be able to take instruction and to, sort of reflect on your own practice, on your own work, and, take feedback, but also to retain kind of the core belief and not be swayed by people too much, because I think that's definitely a danger when you're young, to kind of just abandon and go with the trends or...
Yeah.
So going back to when you first graduated art school, what was it like navigating the professional art world as a young woman?
Okay, so massive anticlimax for me. So when I finished the Central St. Martin's, I literally had no idea what to do. I didn't know how to do it, what I wanted to do. All I knew that I didn't necessarily want to get a studio in East London and kind of sign up for a dorm and live off toast and beans, which a lot of young artists at the time have done. So I remember feeling kind of completely lost, and I felt that I didn't really have much support from the school. And I remember thinking, God, I don't know what to do. And the boy I was dating at the time, he just said to me, like, you've got to do something. And it was easy for him. It was like doing a PhD at Cambridge in chemistry. He had it all sorted, So I thought, okay, so I wrote 3 letters. I sent my CV, sort of put my CV down, and I wrote 3 letters, one to Christie's, one to Sotheby's, and one to Bonham. So this was a very different time. I don't think it works this way anymore. And then I said, hi, do you have any internships? I've just finished art school. I'd love to become an intern. Then 3 days later, I got a call from Christie's, who said, okay, can you start in September? So I did, and I started off at Christie's as an intern. And after 3 months, they offered me a position, and I was doing sort of cataloguing in the picture department and the catalogue department, running some sales, and I loved it. It was like the first job I had, and it was a Christie's South Kensington. So in the past, Christie's had the main office in King Street, and then it had another site on South Kensington, on like close to the station at the beginning of Old Brompton Road. Yeah. And they've closed it since. I think they had to downsize or whatever, but it was super exciting. So I absolutely loved it. But at the same time, I think I wasn't prepared for the job market, and I wasn't prepared for the fact that I can't say anything about the auction houses now because I haven't had an experience for a long time, but it was very misogynist. It was very old boys club. It was a lot of sort of casual misogyny, comments going on from the auctioneers, from the porters, from everyone that worked there. And all the girls that worked there, sort of, you would have a dress code, like twin sets and pearls. And I was often asked if I'm either an artist or my daddy's very rich because I don't dress like the other girls. And and people wouldn't have a problem with asking you a question like that. So that's like, excuse me, But despite all of that, I absolutely loved it. It was really exciting. It introduced me to a different side to art, kind of coming from making art to working in an auction house. It was lovely. I particularly enjoyed when we had to do an inventory in a sort of a stately home. If, someone who owns a stately home was trying to put everything, usually a sad story because they've gone bankrupt, so they had to sell things off, and then they would invite auctioneers to come and kind of catalogue everything before they can put it up on a sale. So that was always an exciting thing to do. Also, the people that worked there was a lot of young people, so I really enjoyed it. There were other interns and some kind of young specialists that worked there. So that was great fun. But I knew that I was not going to stay there for very long. So I knew that this is kind of a gap year job before I move on with more school. So
how long did you stay there?
So I stayed there for a year. So I stayed there from September to the summer. So I think kind of July, then I took the summer off, and then I started my master's in September. So.
And after the master's, you did the PhD right after?
No, I did a little bit of work in between. So I did a master's in arts criticism, and I wanted something that was more sort of theory-based after being in an art school. And that was another thing about art school. I felt it was intellectually understimulating. It was so much focus on actually making art that sort of larger concepts about art, things to do with art history, that was neglected. And for me, who kind of fell in love with art throughout history, I really minded that. And I've always been kind of a nerdy child who liked to read, so I really missed that. So I was looking for a course to do, and then I thought, okay, I wanted to do writing course, I wanted to do art criticism, and there were only 2 places in the UK that did it at the time. It was Edinburgh and City University, and I didn't want to go outside of London, so I did it at City, and it was a wonderful course, which I really thoroughly enjoyed, and I'm still very good friends with the person who ran it, Dr. Julia Stein, and we edited an anthology together. So, she was the mentor that I didn't have at St. Martin's. So she was definitely someone that I felt made a profound impact on me, and we've been friends ever since. So that was great. But yes, sorry to your question. Then I went and did lots of different jobs in the arts world. I worked for Zaha Hadid, the architect, where I met my best friend. He's the godfather of my children, who interviewed me, and we were doing sort of the slide library. I worked at Modern Painters magazine as editorial assistant, and this was before they were bought by Art and Auction, which is the American magazines. That was fun. We went to New York for the relaunch of American Issue. I met David Bowie, who was on their editorial board. So that was lots of fun. And then I worked internship at the Tate, their charitable giving department, at ICA, which is the Institute of Contemporary Art. But then I decided, okay, this is all great. My daddy still has to pay for my rent. Which is sadly, you'll find it in the arts world, people either have private incomes or they have to have multiple careers in order to afford to live in London. So I decided to go back to school and do a PhD.
And when was the breaking point where you decided, okay, this is fun, but I want to go back to painting and being an artist?
So I always felt, something was missing in terms of I loved my journey through the arts world. I liked teaching, I liked learning about art, but I felt like, I need to make art. So I know an artist, she's a portrait artist, and she would let me rent her studio like 2 afternoons a week. And I did that to begin with for years. So I would just go in, but it was a running studio. I couldn't really paint there. I would draw there, but I was trying to sort of get in to keep it going, because I think it's very difficult to work as an artist at home, not to have a space, because you need kind of the space, the physical space and the headspace. And I think having a physical space helps you, having a headspace, you can kind of have that separation from your home life. And I know a lot of artists nowadays, because they can't afford studios, they work in their bedrooms or they work, in their houses. And that must be such a struggle. And plus, if you have a family and if you use any smelly materials, that makes it even harder, which is what I do. So I did that, and I kept going, sort of open days to the art schools and stuff, and thinking, should I do it? Should I not do it? And then at some point I thought, you know what, I don't want to have what ifs. I don't want to have regrets. I wanted to be a painter since I was 9, and I actually never tried to be an artist. So I think that's when I decided, okay, this is it. And then I went back to Royal College.
So exciting.
Were you doing art on the side at all when you were in school and throughout those years before you?
When I was in school, which school?
Any of them.
Well, when I was at art school, I painted, and I kept drawing. I kept, sort of going to my friend's studio twice, when I could. So I had it going sort of on a slow burner to lesser or more degree, depending on how busy my life was getting in terms of, having kids or work. But I always tried to have something. So I have, if you look at, because I keep all my notes, I keep all my diaries, and I have so many post-it notes like paint more. I had that, like play more tennis, paint more, like things we want to do. So it was always, do more painting. So I always had that, and I always wanted to have, kind of a proper studio practice and the space to do it. And I finally have it now, but that has its own challenges as well. So it's never perfect, really.
And talking about the challenges, what are other challenges that you see as an artist now that you've come back to being a painter?
But certainly is age. So I think there's a lot of ageism in the art world. And I feel like I'm an emerging artist, because I never tried to be an artist in my 20s, but no one wants emerging artists my age. So, the whole concept of emerging artist, you have to be straight out of art school, which I am, but it has to be, the first time around. So I feel that, from the outset, so people see someone in my age, they think you should be mid-career by now, or, you should be established, and no one realizes actually some people don't come to art
until later.
Later, exactly. And so that's a challenge. Another challenge is, again, as a lot of artists are finding that you can't pay bills with just making art, so they take on other jobs, and then just I have a job here at university, which means that, I spend my weekends painting, but I feel so pressured. I actually currently feel that my studio is like a toxic place. I've not been feeling great about it because I think I put a lot of pressure on myself because I don't have much time. So when I go there, I'm like, okay, right, now I have to force it. I have to produce, and you can't force creativity.
Yes.
So sometimes I go on, I repaint the same thing over and over again. I destroy paintings all the time. My husband says, like, I'm going to confiscate them away from you, so you don't go into these loops, overworking, because it's difficult when you have a limited amount of time and you're so desperate to do stuff. So it would be lovely to just have time to, do it properly and kind of have time to start my day and think about the inspiration and think about, what am I going to do? Because, being an artist, it's a whole lifestyle. And I think, there's so many other things rather than just putting paint on a canvas or drawing. There is reading about art, there's looking at art. And I'm fortunate that, through my work, I go through a lot of exhibitions. I read about art all the time. But then again, I do it as a part of my work. So I, of course, use it in my practice. But it's maybe I would have been exposed to something different if I only had my practice.
So do you think it still feels like a job somehow? Like job adjacent? So that
in a way, well, I wanted to, it just feels that I still can't give it the amount of time and attention it requires because it is, to kind of, everyone talk about professionalizing their practice, and I feel I can't get to that stage because I don't have time to professionalize it. I feel that now I'm just kind of reacting and wanting to do stuff, but, I'm not thinking of how could I, because I think another thing what a lot of artists have to do is networking again. It's, constantly going to openings, meeting people, trying to place themselves, into orbit, become visible, so you can actually then get some traction in terms of, group shows, individual shows, and all of that is connected. And I feel that, no, I have a job, and then I have the 2 days at the studio where I'm just trying to produce stuff. So it's missing, but I'm sure, eventually. So my goal is that eventually, because life is long, hopefully, and I will, keep doing more and more painting, but I'm determined to not give up. Because art, I realized throughout my years, is not something you can kind of dip in and out of. If you want to do it as a profession, as a hobby, yes. If you want to be a hobby painter, but if you actually want to, make art because this is your profession, this is what you want to do, you really need to sort of dedicate yourself to it.
Go all in.
Yes, and it's hard work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of dedication. It's a lot of work. So for anyone that works in the art world, I think that they'll have to, or as an artist, that this is something, it's, and so too many people give up, which is, sad.
Yeah. And do you think being in a arts club, because you're part of the Chelsea Arts Club, helps you with your practice?
You know what? So I've been a member for the past maybe, 5, 6, 7 years. I can't remember. I think it's definitely, I get to see people who do art for a living or, art adjacent things. And that's really reassuring. And especially because demographic, it's a lot of older people, which is actually quite nice because I think if you are a member of a club, usually it's young people. But I think they're trying to diversify, so they're always trying to get new, younger intake and new, younger members. But it's actually, I find it quite reassuring that it's like there's longevity in this. So you can actually keep going, and a lot of them are established artists. So and there are opportunities. There are like group shows at the Chelsea Arts Club. There are lots of artist talks. Then again, I feel that I am not utilizing the club as much as I could because I'm so busy. But again, going forward, so this is it, I have more time. I would definitely engage more in terms of, sort of talks, spending more time there and, generally talking to people and stuff. But it is a really nice, it is a lovely atmosphere. it's lots of creative people, and I think you can really feel it. So it's very, very inspiring to go there.
And could you have your own like exhibitions?
And usually, so what they do, they put open calls, but they don't have enough space. So, and they try to rotate everyone. So at some point, everyone will get a chance to kind of have their own show. But they do have group shows where all the members, can contribute with a work of art, or they have charity auctions. So there are opportunities there that, you can do. So.
Have you done it?
Yes, I have. Yes. So that's something that I do. I always kind of make a point, but that, I'm going to put my work in and
Who knows?
Should we move to the fun questions?
Yes.
Are we ready?
Yes.
Okay.
I think we can go with the first one. So which artist, dead or alive, do you think that is overrated?
Oh, overrated. Yes, I was thinking about that. Where do I start? There are far too many. Jeff Koons, Kusama,
It's okay.
Murakami.
Okay.
Pretty much a lot of the artists that do fashion collaborations.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
What
That
do you
are
think
alive.
about Picasso?
I love Picasso. He's my favorite artist. And I actually felt really bad when he was cancelled some years back. And, I was I know he was not a nice guy. Well, he was more than not a nice guy. But I just felt that his contribution to art and to art history, and just how revolutionary he was, and how many boundaries he broke, and how he moved art, from his starting point to now, that I have to I can't just judge him on the poor choices that he made in his personal life.
I think it's very difficult sometimes to separate the artist from the person.
Yeah.
And I can't do it.
I mean, it's an ongoing conversation, and it just gets worse and worse.
Yeah. Like,
as time goes
for
on.
example, Gauguin as well. I cannot
Exactly.
separate the artist from the person. I don't like the person, so I don't like the art.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
but
so
I agree
difficult.
with you for your hot takes of artists when they try to monopolize on something and it just doesn't seem genuine. But we have to add that maybe Kusama wasn't entirely part of that decision.
Voluntary.
Well, not voluntarily,
Yeah.
exactly. So how much agency she has
Exactly.
is questionable, and who acts on her behalf. But
Yeah.
I think she'd be happy with those giant figures of herself.
Oh my gosh.
Next to Harrods. It's just so gimmicky. Because I think the art becomes a gimmick.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's sort of any symbolism or any meaning that might be attached to it initially, it just disappears, and it becomes like purely commercial exercise.
Yeah.
100%.
Which I think
Especially
is
because
not.
Kusama's meaning of it's kind of dark.
It's inherently very sad.
Yeah.
It's very sad and dark
and profound.
Yeah.
So for
And
it
it's
to
on a
become
bag. I mean, please.
Yeah.
I think it really, for me, it diminishes, the meaning, and it's
100%.
And I feel like people don't know maybe the full meaning of her art, and that's why they're like, oh, cute bag. I don't think I would appreciate a bag knowing why she does art.
Yeah.
Wow.
Is there something you're bored of in the art world?
yes, repetition. I think there's a lot of repetition now. I think, especially, I always look at art through art historical lens, and that's something that I sort of fell in love with art through. And I teach in art history, I lecture in art history. I feel that, for the past sort of, ever since maybe Tracy Emin, conceptual art, and sort of YBAs, that they were the last ones that sort of had a continuum of art history. And now we have this age of individualism where everyone does everything, everyone copies everything. It's a bit like sampling in hip hop. And there's a lot of repetition. And I think that, I keep seeing stuff that have references to the canon, yet the people who make them are unaware of the reference they're making. So, and they think they're fresh and new, but they're not. So, and then, one shouldn't maybe necessarily point that to them, but...
I think that's a really good point. Bring back art history in art. I like that.
Bring back art
It's not for
history.
everyone, but I think that, a lot of, yes, being unaware of the reference can potentially, it's liberating as well, because I think it can be something that can, make you a bit more fearful and sort of, in a way, it's like perfectionism. You don't really want to try because they've done it so much better before. But at the same time, kind of knowing it will help you make something more meaningful. But yeah, so I think the jury's out there.
So, well, if you had no budget, no space limit,
Okay.
and you had to buy 3 artworks, it could be anything, design, painting, sculptures, whatever you want, which one would you
Okay.
get?
Yes, I'm going for museum pieces. So I want the Jackson Pollock from MoMA. I don't know if you've seen it, the big one. I think it's called Lavender something.
Yes.
That's probably one of my favorite paintings. Then I want Mars and Venus by Botticelli from the National Gallery.
Okay.
And I would like Louise Bourgeois, Maman, the big spider.
That's such
my
a good
garden.
one.
That's a great
Such
answer.
a good one.
So yeah, plus anything by Picasso, but that's for the loose probably, I'll probably put it in the loose. So
Well, the spider, the mama is really good.
Yeah,
I
such a
didn't
great
think
answer.
about that.
Where would you put it? Like in
the
your
garden.
in the garden.
Oh, yes.
Completely, yes. I
Well,
think so.
That was a good answer.
I need a big garden though, but yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any dogs?
No.
Oh,
no,
they
I
wouldn't.
don't.
Then they would be scared of it. Maybe.
Well, but it cannot comprehend because it's too big. It's like 9 meters tall. So like the
Exactly. It's
dog
very
doesn't
big.
really.
They just see the legs.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good pee around the legs.
Yeah.
But
They
that's
had it
fine.
recently at Tate, right? Like in May, last May,
I'm not sure, maybe.
for the 20 years. I thought they would bring it back. But
There
I
was
don't know.
there was a big show at Hayward some years ago.
Oh.
Or a couple of years ago of hers. Or maybe it was Tate. I too many shows. but-
I've always wondered how they move the spider.
She's done a few. I think she's made a few.
Yeah.
So there are. In
But like,
different
do they
places.
like put it apart, like, or is it like a whole thing?
Must
They
be.
just
I don't know. Yeah, it will be very difficult to move. But yeah.
helicopter it around.
Take the roof of the Tate.
Yeah,
it in.
exactly.
Exactly.
Put the
Imagine the
roof
size of the garden you'd need. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be quite nice.
Goals.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Exactly. And 2 staircases in a house.
Oh, cool.
That's another
yeah.
one.
Oh.
Totally. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
what I said. My next house is going to have 2 staircases.
Definitely.
So you can go up one and come down another one.
I love that.
Yeah. No, I think that's important. Everything else is fine.
For a big entrance.
A foyer, a big
foyer.
foyer with the 2 staircases.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
I'd like that.
What is a belief? This you can go like as deep as you want or as surface level as you want. Like, what is a belief about the art world that has changed in your career years?
The belief that has changed, that what has changed within the arts world, within the...
A belief that you have.
the belief that I had.
Yeah, like maybe when you were in your 20s,
yeah.
you thought something about the art
Okay,
world.
yes. I think when I was young and when I was, sort of growing up, I thought art was the pinnacle. And I still do, There's science, there's everything, and there's the arts. And I always thought that art is very pure. And the people do art because it's almost like a vocation, It's not a job, it's something that you need to do. And I think throughout I realized that perhaps that's not the case, and there are many different reasons why people come and do art. And so, I'm kind of having a very idealized romantic version of what an artist is, and which I think that maybe that's changed. And I think, you could have artists like Jack Koons.
Huge manufacturers.
Exactly, who are just business people seeing and opening. So maybe that has changed. I'm a bit more realistic about, who is an artist and what is an artist, and why do artists do art, and it's not always this deep calling that you can't live. It's kind of the burning desire that you have to paint or sculpt or
And why do you do art? What inspires you?
What drives you?
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, as I said, I came to it through art history, but now it's just so. I did a lot of work when my mummy passed away suddenly, and it was a way of dealing with grief. So certainly, you know, some people might call it like a therapy, but for me, it was very important to process how I felt through art. So since I kind of don't do that explicitly so much amongst that, but it is something that I feel that, you know, it's a response. And I think often when I kind of look back at what I make, I could see why I made it. And I think art is in general always a response to the society that we live in, or at least I'd like to think that this is kind of the lens that you apply in art history. You sort of have different lenses and how you look at art. And I think there is, you can map what's going on in the world, and you know, there's so much political art, there's so much response to what goes on, to so I think for me it's kind of my own internal kind of response to, you know, to life really, to kind of day-to-day living.
Yeah. And what do you think of like relational aesthetics? So if people see your artworks and interpret them in a different way than how you interpret them, would you be like one of those people that tries to make the public understand that it's your way, or let them think whatever they want?
That's a good question. Actually, I would probably let them think whatever they want, because I do think that that's the beauty of art, that everyone can see something different in it, and kind of it becomes too prescriptive. If, you know, or I'm not that territorial. So I think in a way when you make a work of art, you kind of then sort of, it's like giving birth, then it becomes something that exists on, you know, in their own merit, and you kind of send it away, and then it interacts with people differently. And I think everyone interacts with a work of art differently. And I think that that's the strength. A good work of art will work on multiple levels for different people. And I think a bad work of art won't do that. It would need like an explanation, and it would need a lot of directive, like how do we see what we see? So I think that, you know, kind of having that ambiguity, or having that ability that, you know, everyone can find something that resonates with them within the artwork is important.
Definitely. Okay.
Last question then.
Yeah.
If you could give any advice to someone that wants to work in the art world in any way, being an artist or just adjacent jobs, what would be your advice?
I would say, okay, don't give up. As much as it's hard, if it's your passion, just go for it. You can always backtrack, or you can come back to it, but just kind of, I think, chase your dreams, whatever your dreams are. And it is, you know, there's no perfect success or failure. And I think sort of benchmarking yourselves against some, you know, measures like this is by this time, what do I need to do by? And I think, you know, especially when young, we all do that. I always have 5-year plan. What it is I'm going to achieve in 5 years. I've stopped making these 5-year plans now because I'm like thinking, well, you know, 5-day plan. So, but it's, yeah, kind of don't give up. Be prepared to, and take any opportunity that comes your way. Sometimes, even if not kind of immediately obvious and stuff, it actually might be meaningful. And I think one can find meaning in anything, and you can always kind of interpret that meaning and connect it to kind of a larger picture in what it is that you want to be and where you want to go. So I think it's kind of, you know, sampling everything and not getting disheartened. And it's very, very difficult. And never ever compare yourself to others, because that's
the hardest part, I think.
That is hard, but that's the only way you can actually, again, be true to yourself and take the feedback that suits you. And, you know, be able to take feedback and an instruction, but use it as a force for good, not to bash yourself over the head, thinking, oh, I'm no good, or I can't do this, or this and that. So always look at the positive. Which I'm not very good at myself, and that's the advice I would give.
I think we're always better at giving advice and taking it ourselves.
Definitely.
That was such a beautiful answer.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much.
You're very
inspiring.
welcome.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me.
Of course.
Thank you for
And
watching.
thank you for watching.
Yeah, thank you.
1, 2, 3.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, hopefully this was okay.
That's great.